back at them, but I just want to confuse them and, you know, and surprise them that I haven't been gotten.
Right. So then, how do we define the difference between emotional vampires and psychic vampires?
Well, emotional vampires are people ordinary people who just suck you dry. And when you're around them, your energy goes down, your eyelids can get heavy, you feel like you want to take a nap, or you feel put down, or you feel like the rug was pulled out from under you. And I also want to say in Emotional Freedom, I have a quiz. Could you be an emotional vampire? You know, what are the signs of urine? Everybody has these tendencies to drain. But the thing is, with Emotional Freedom, you have the choice of, you know, where you're coming from. But if you suspect you're an emotional vampire, it's on page 124, but here are some of the signs where people avoid you or glaze over during a conversation. You're self-obsessed, you're negative, you gossip or badmouth people, you're critical and controlling, or you're an emotional black hole but won't get help. You know, that really strains relationships. So people stay in depression, they're a dark cloud, but they won't get any help. You see, so, you know, it takes compassion and awareness to say, yeah, maybe that's me. Maybe I'm in a victim mode now. Maybe I could change that. So I'm not labeling emotional vampires as them. We all have that tendency. But what I want to try and teach people is to notice it in yourself quickly so you can shift out of it.
I have a family member who I think of sometimes as sort of, I remember our very first conversation, however many years ago, that you first agreed to come on Coast to Coast with you, and I'm grateful for that conversation we had about psychic and emotional vampires then. And I thought of this other person that was sort of an emotional werewolf. It's really cyclical. It's almost like a full moon scenario, that they're fine, and then there's like this gosh period of the soul that comes over them, and then they're fine again. And so it's really easy to forget between the episodes that another one is coming. It's inevitably there will be another full moon.
Yes, that's a very good point, because when people go through hard times themselves, and their worst qualities come out, and so when they're going through better times, they're less likely to dream. But when people are unhappy or going through stuff, they tend to turn into the vampire selves if they have that tendency. And also, you know, abusers who are emotional vampires are intermittent reinforcers, where the pattern is that they'll be lovely and nice and wonderful, and then they'll shift into the abuse cycle. And that's why victims don't get into abusers, because they can be loving as well as abusers, when the loving waves them in. So you've got to be aware of intermittent reinforcement. And people, positive energy people, usually loving and caring are what they're trying to be, and they get to see things with someone's behavior over time. Because I just think someone is really abused, that's extremely defensive energy.
There's a really interesting original author on the movie, the Universal movie about werewolves. What he actually was writing about the wolfman as the victim, because he wrote about his experience in the street Nazi Germany before he came over to States, where he was the victim of anti-Semitism. And so he talked to the werewolf was really designed around how to kids. He wrote the wolfman and to not fit in, and to be suddenly you have to take the interview and go, there's the guy here's the cause of all of our problems. And so I would think sometimes too about when I'm thinking about the wolfman or thinking about werewolves or vampires, I try sometimes to see it from their perspective, and I struggle with that when it comes to psychic vampires. But is there anything that we can take into that conversation with somebody who is attempting to emotionally or psychically drain us, where we can really feel some amount of empathy for them and feel like, gosh, it must be so hard to be you, even as they are making life hard to be us.
Wow, well, that's the state to strive for. I mean, that's the basis of emotional freedom in terms of compassion, where even to always try and have compassion for the suffering in other people that causes them to do any of that. I mean, that's a huge stretch of the heart. And you don't forgive the act. If somebody murders your sister, you don't forgive the act. But it's just the heart and the compassion. If you can get there, forgive the suffering that caused somebody to commit such an act. And, you know, this always creates a lot of emotion in people, because I was once accused of, you know, that's not human nature. You can't expect people to do that. If I have my final chapter in emotional freedom is on anger, and I talk a lot about what you just said, I believe it's essential to strive for forgiveness and compassion, not for the act, but in terms of letting go of the resentment, so we do not carry it around and have it rooted in us. And that's freedom. And so even with emotional vampires, they have to try and get into their head why they're doing that. When you do it, it's intuitive. That's the great thing about being intuitive. I can feel what's going on in other people. And I'll tell you, what motivates emotional vampires is always unhappiness and insecurity. It's never happiness. Your energy out of it.
Right. By the way, I trust you when you talk about your intuitive abilities, but I think there's a lot of people who think of themselves as being intuitive that I think they're kidding themselves. I think they really don't have, what they reflect out of you or what they see out of other people is such a profound reflection of who they are inside.
Yes, intuitive has to be so terrible and projection. I've seen that that's a dangerous part of intuitive. If they could look at you and say, you're such an angry person, and you're just feeling fine, and they're really projecting their own anger. But I want to say the great thing about intuition is that it can be proven. If you have an intuition about somebody, and you feel that, you know, something is going to happen, whether it's going to happen or not, you know, and you get it proven in everyday reality many, many times, and you feel like giving somebody advice, you know, you'll see the works for them. That is practical about intuition. And I, you know, it resonates with people. When I'm in a large group giving a workshop, and I give a lot of spontaneous intuitive readings there, and I tell people, the resonates can, but the doesn't just you know, it's something that somebody does like intuitive reading on you. When you seem like it, yes, that response to the yes, that's going to open a door for me. You're right on intuition. If it doesn't do any of that, or it scares you, or it's off, then it's not. You see, people should not raise intuitives on some pedestal. You know, intuitives are people. They can be right, they can be wrong, they can have good days, bad days. You know, we do our best. You know, you do your best. And I try to work on myself to clear my negative emotions and my suggestions. So I can be a clear channel when I sit with my patients, or I sit with my workshop participants, or when I write. But I don't want to be projecting all my own stuff over on you, because then I won't give an accurate intuitive reading.
No, I totally get that. In fact, I like that humility that you bring to it. I think my experience with a lot of intuitives is they almost feel like they've got a superpower, that they can, you know, almost like they're something like a planet, and they feel like they can look through other people like Batman can look through, like Superman can look through walls. You know what I mean? I just feel I'm really suspicious when people talk about themselves as intuitive. I think intuition would be something that would be proven by others. Somebody else would say that about you more accurately than you could say that about yourself.
Well, that's true. But, you know, in Second Sight, I have a chapter called The Spiritual Path of the Psychic, and meaning part of the path of developing intuition is dealing with your own ego and not getting enamored with it and developing humility. That's part of the path.